Captain Maya Rodriguez hadn't expected to find anything particularly interesting in the crystalline ruins of Kepler 186f. The exoplanet's ancient structures had been picked clean by generations of archaeological expeditions, leaving behind little more than shimmering walls and echoing chambers. But as she navigated through a narrow corridor, her helmet lights illuminating the translucent surfaces around her, an unusual sound caught her attention. A rhythmic tapping, followed by what could only be described as a frustrated growl. Maya paused, adjusting the sensitivity on her suit's audio receptors. The sound was coming from somewhere ahead, deeper in the ruins than most expedition teams ventured. Her wrist scanner showed unstable structural integrity in that direction, which explained why the area remained largely unexplored. "Base, this is Rodriguez," she spoke into her comm. "Picking up possible signs of activity in Section 7, going to investigate." Static crackled before a response came through. "Copy that, Captain. Be advised you're approaching the unstable zone. Proceed with caution." Maya moved forward carefully, her magnetic boots providing secure footing on the crystalline floor. The tapping grew louder, accompanied now by words in a language her translator couldn't quite parse. As she rounded a corner, the source of the sounds became clear. Trapped halfway through a partially collapsed doorway was a figure unlike any alien species Maya had encountered before. The being appeared to be made of living crystal, its semi-transparent body refracting the light from Maya's helmet in rainbow patterns across the walls. But what caught her attention most was how the crystalline form shifted and flowed like liquid, despite its apparently solid nature. The alien noticed her approach and ceased its struggles. "Oh, thank the lattice," it spoke, this time in perfect standard English. "I was beginning to think I'd have to wait for the next geological age to be rescued." Maya approached cautiously, her hand instinctively touching the pulse rifle at her hip. "I'm Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Earth Expeditionary Force. Are you all right?" The crystal being managed what appeared to be the equivalent of an embarrassed shrug. "Physically intact, though my pride is somewhat fractured. I'm Nexus, a crystalline scholar from the Prismatic Collective. I was examining these ruins when this doorway decided to partially collapse. My body's natural crystalline state usually allows me to reshape myself through narrow spaces, but something about this structure is interfering with my abilities." Maya's scientific curiosity piqued. "The ruins are affecting your molecular structure." "Precisely," Nexus replied. Their crystalline form sparkled with what Maya interpreted as excitement. "These ruins share a similar crystalline composition to my species. I theorized they might contain records of ancient contact between our peoples, but I wasn't expecting them to have an active effect on crystalline biology." Maya circled the trapped alien, assessing the situation. The doorway had indeed partially collapsed, creating a tight space that was pinching Nexus's crystalline form at an awkward angle. The surrounding structure groaned ominously. "This whole section is unstable," Maya warned, checking her scanner again. "We need to get you out quickly. Can you try to reshape yourself while I provide counterpressure?" "An interesting proposal," Nexus mused. "The ruins' interference is strongest when I try to alter my form alone, but perhaps external force could help overcome the resistance." Maya positioned herself carefully, placing her hands on the smoothest part of Nexus's crystalline surface. The alien's body felt like cool glass, but with a subtle pulse beneath, like a frozen river that somehow retained its flow. "On my mark," Maya instructed. 3, 2, 1. She pushed steadily while Nexus attempted to reform their structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like breaking ice, Nexus's form began to shift. The crystalline being flowed backward through the gap, their body reorganizing itself with Maya's help until they finally broke free. The sudden release sent them both tumbling backward. Maya landed with Nexus partially wrapped around her, the alien's crystalline form automatically cushioning their fall. For a brief moment, Maya felt a strange resonance through her suit, as if her own molecular structure was trying to harmonize with Nexus's crystalline frequency. "Fascinating," Nexus hummed, their body rippling with multicolored light. "Your biological structure has interesting properties, Captain Rodriguez. There's a resonance I wouldn't have expected from a carbon-based life form." Before Maya could respond, a deep rumble echoed through the ruins. Cracks began spreading across the crystalline walls around them. "Time to continue this discussion elsewhere," Maya said, quickly getting to her feet. "Can you move?" "Thanks to your assistance, yes." Nexus flowed upright, their form consolidating into a roughly humanoid shape. Though I should mention, Captain, that the destabilization seems to be spreading faster than normal structural collapse would suggest. Maya's scanner confirmed Nexus's observation. The energy readings from the ruins were spiking in patterns that defied normal physics. Base, this is Rodriguez. We have a situation here. The only response was static. Something was interfering with her communications. I don't suppose your people have any records of similar reactions in these ruins? Maya asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. Nexus's crystalline form darkened slightly. No, but then again, we've never had a crystalline being and a human in this close proximity within the ruins before. Perhaps our earlier resonance triggered something. Another rumble shook the corridor and Maya made a quick decision. Let's figure it out from a safer distance. Follow me. As they began their retreat through the ruins, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter was more than mere chance. The way Nexus's crystalline structure had resonated with her own biology, the ruins' strange reaction to their interaction, it all suggested something larger at play. What she didn't know yet was that this rescue was just the beginning of a mystery that would challenge everything both their species thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. The journey back through the crystalline ruins quickly proved more challenging than Maya had anticipated. Every passage they had traversed earlier was now transforming, the once transparent walls taking on an opalescent glow that pulsed in sync with their footsteps. Behind them, the sound of shattering crystal echoed through the corridors. The ruins are reconfiguring themselves, Nexus observed, their own crystalline body reflecting the strange light in cascading patterns. This architecture isn't just ancient technology, it's responding to our presence as if it were alive. Maya checked her wrist scanner again, but the readings made even less sense than before. The energy signatures were shifting faster than the device could analyze them, creating a chaotic display of data that threatened to overwhelm its processors. Can you sense anything about these changes? Maya asked, remembering how Nexus had mentioned the ruins' interference with their abilities. Any pattern we could use to navigate? Nexus's form rippled thoughtfully. There's a resonance pattern, but it's unlike anything in our historical records. It's almost as if... They paused as a particularly violent tremor shook the corridor. As if the ruins are trying to establish some kind of connection between us. Maya was about to respond when the floor beneath them suddenly became transparent, revealing a network of crystalline veins pulsing with energy deep below. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, like standing on a frozen ocean that concealed an entire world beneath its surface. Look there, Nexus pointed with a crystalline appendage that flowed into the shape of a hand. The energy flows are converging ahead of us. That might be our best chance for understanding what's happening. Or it could be a trap, Maya countered, though she was already moving in the indicated direction. Her years of exploration had taught her that sometimes the riskiest path was also the only viable option. As they approached the convergence point, the walls around them began to sing. It started as a subtle harmonic, barely perceptible through Maya's suit, but quickly grew into a symphony of crystalline frequencies that made her teeth ache. Nexus's form vibrated in response, their usually smooth surface developing complex geometric patterns. The resonance is strengthening, Nexus said, their voice taking on a musical quality that matched the ruins' harmonics. Captain, I believe I understand now. These ruins weren't just built by an ancient civilization, they're a bridge. A bridge between what? Maya asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. Between different forms of life, Nexus replied. The resonance I felt with your biology earlier, it wasn't a coincidence. These ruins were designed to facilitate communication, perhaps even symbiosis, between crystalline and carbon-based life forms. The revelation was interrupted by a sudden shift in the architecture. The corridor ahead of them transformed, its walls flowing like liquid crystal to create a circular chamber. At its center, a column of pure energy rose from floor to ceiling, its light pulsing in patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. This is remarkable, Maya breathed, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her caution. But why now? These ruins have been studied for decades without showing any signs of active technology. Nexus moved closer to the energy column, their crystalline form becoming more luminous in its presence. Perhaps it needed both types of life forms present simultaneously, Your people studied it alone, as did mine, but together. They extended a crystalline tendril toward the column. Wait, Maya called out, but it was too late. The moment Nexus made contact with the energy, the entire chamber blazed with light. Maya's suit sensors screamed warnings as power surged through the ruins' crystalline network. To her horror, she watched as Nexus's form began to fragment, pieces of their crystalline body being drawn into the energy column. But instead of showing distress, Nexus's voice came through clearer than ever. "It's all right, Captain. This isn't destruction, it's transformation. The ruins are using my crystalline structure as a conduit, but it needs you too. We need to complete the bridge." Maya's training and instincts warred with each other. Everything she knew told her to retreat, to call for backup, to treat this as a potential threat. But something deeper, perhaps the same intuition that had made her such a successful explorer, urged her forward. "What do you need me to do?" she asked, her hand hovering over her suit's emergency protocols. "Remove your glove," Nexus said, their voice now seeming to come from everywhere in the chamber. "The ruins need direct contact with carbon-based life to complete the connection." Maya stared at her gloved hand, knowing that this moment of trust could either be the greatest discovery of her career or her last mistake. The chamber's crystalline harmonics had reached a fever pitch, and she could feel the vibrations in her bones. With a deep breath, she unsealed her right glove. The air in the chamber was breathable according to her suit's readings, but that was the least of her concerns now. As she reached toward the energy column where Nexus's form swirled like a constellation of crystal stars, she remembered an old saying from her training days. First contact isn't just about meeting new life, it's about being willing to become something new yourself. Her fingers touched the column of light, and the universe changed. The moment Maya's hand touched the energy column, her world exploded into crystalline clarity. Her consciousness expanded beyond the confines of her body, merging with the resonant frequencies that pulsed through the ruins. Through this new awareness, she could sense Nexus not as a separate being, but as a harmonious pattern of energy intertwined with her own. "This is how your species perceives reality," she breathed, watching as her thoughts created ripples of light through the chamber. Her hand, still in contact with the energy column, had developed a subtle crystalline sheen that spread slowly up her arm. "And this is how humans feel," Nexus responded, their voice filled with wonder. Their crystalline form had partially reintegrated, now showing traces of organic patterns that mimicked human cellular structure. So much intensity, so much emotion. But amid their shared revelation, Maya sensed something else, a discordant note in the ruins' harmonious symphony. Through their enhanced perception, both she and Nexus became aware of other presences within the crystalline network, ancient and patient, watching their interaction with cold calculation. "We're not alone," Maya warned, trying to pull her hand away from the energy column. To her alarm, she found she couldn't break the connection. The crystalline sheen had spread to her shoulder, and with it came a growing sense of otherness that both thrilled and terrified her. "The ruins," Nexus's form pulsed with sudden understanding. "They're not just a bridge between our species, they're a trap, a way to harvest the unique properties of both crystalline and organic life forms." Through their shared consciousness, Maya accessed fragments of information stored within the ruins' matrix. Images flashed through her mind, other pairs of beings, both crystalline and organic, drawn to these ruins across millennia, each pair forming a connection, being transformed and then absorbed. Their combined essence used to power something vast and hungry that slumbered deep beneath the planet's surface. "The disappearances," Maya gasped, remembering reports she dismissed as exploration accidents. "All those missing research teams over the years." "They became part of the ruins," Nexus confirmed, their forms struggling to maintain cohesion as the chamber's energy tried to pull them apart. "But why? What purpose could this serve?" The answer came not in words, but in sensations. A plan spanning millions of years. A patient gathering of energy and consciousness from diverse life forms. The ruins were more than just a structure. They were part of a vast organism that fed on the unique properties created when different forms of life merged. Maya fought against the growing, crystalline transformation of her body, focusing on maintaining her human consciousness even as the ruins' influence threatened to overwhelm her. There has to be a way to break free. The other pairs, did any of them escape? Nexus's consciousness brushed against hers, searching through the stored memories in the crystalline network. "Wait!" There's something, a resonance pattern that caused a disruption, but it would require perfect synchronization between our forms. Like an interference wave, Maya said, her scientific training cutting through the otherworldly sensations flooding her mind. If we could match frequencies but phase them oppositely, we could create a feedback loop in the ruins' energy system, Nexus finished her thought. Their shared consciousness made complex scientific concepts flow between them effortlessly. But the timing would have to be perfect, and the backlash could tear us apart at a molecular level, Maya concluded. She could feel the crystalline transformation reaching her neck now, each heartbeat sending prismatic pulses through her partially transformed body. But if we don't try, we'll be absorbed anyway. Through their connection, they could sense the ancient consciousness stirring deeper in the ruins, becoming aware of their resistance. The chamber's harmonics shifted, trying to overwhelm their individual patterns and force complete transformation. Maya, Nexus said, using her first name for the first time. If we succeed, the resonance disruption could destroy all our shared memories of this experience. Everything we've learned about each other's perception of reality. We'll have to be rediscovered the old-fashioned way. Maya managed a smile, though her face was now traced with crystalline patterns. Ready. Nexus's form pulsed with determination. Ready. Together, they began to adjust their resonance patterns. Maya focused on her human rhythms, heartbeat, breath, the electrical pulses of her nervous system, while Nexus manipulated their crystalline frequencies to create a perfect counterharmony. The chamber's light intensified as the ruins' ancient consciousness recognized the threat, attempting to speed up their transformation. Maya felt her consciousness starting to fragment, memories of Earth and her human life scattering like light through a prism. Through it all, she held onto one thought, the pattern they needed to create. She could feel Nexus doing the same, their shared focus creating a point of perfect resonance in the chaos of transformation. Just as the crystalline patterns reached her eyes, threatening to transform her completely, Maya felt their frequencies align. For a split second, human and crystalline energies matched perfectly, and then crashed against each other in a devastating wave of interference. The last thing Maya remembered was a sound like every crystal in the universe shattering at once, and a final, fleeting thought shared with Nexus. Find me again. Then everything went white. Maya awakened to the sound of emergency sirens and the feeling of cold stone against her back. Her body ached as if she'd been thrown against a wall, and her mind felt strangely empty, like a room that had been suddenly cleared of furniture. Through blurred vision, she could make out the flashing lights of rescue vehicles and the silhouettes of emergency response teams moving through the ruins' entrance. Captain Rodriguez, a voice called out, "Can you hear me?" She tried to respond but could only manage a weak cough. Her right arm tingled with a sensation she couldn't quite identify, and fragments of crystalline debris surrounded her on the ground. Something important had happened, something she needed to remember. "Nexus," she croaked, the name coming to her lips before the memory fully formed. "Where's Nexus?" The rescue team exchanged glances. "We found no other life forms in the immediate vicinity, Captain," one of them reported. "But there's significant crystalline debris scattered throughout this chamber. Our sensors are having trouble getting clear readings." Maya forced herself to sit up, fighting off a wave of dizziness. The chamber around them was transformed. The once smooth walls were cracked and dulled, the mysterious energy column completely gone. But most striking were the thousands of crystalline fragments that covered every surface, each one catching the emergency lights like frozen stars. "Those fragments," Maya said, her scientific mind starting to push through the fog of disorientation. "They need to be contained, carefully they might be." "Part of your crystalline friend?" a new voice interrupted. Maya turned to see Commander Victor Chen striding into the chamber, his usual pristine uniform now coated in crystalline dust. Or perhaps part of what they really were. Something in his tone set off warning bells in Maya's mind. "Sir." Chen gestured to the rescue team, who immediately began setting up containment fields around the larger clusters of crystal fragments. "We've been monitoring these ruins for years, Captain, waiting for the right moment, the right interaction." Memory fragments flashed through Maya's mind, the sense of an ancient consciousness, a trap spanning millennia, the desperate plan she and Nexus had formed. "You knew," she said, her voice hardening. "You knew what these ruins really were." "We suspected," Chen corrected, kneeling down beside her. But we needed proof. When our sensors detected a crystalline scholar entering the ruins, followed by your accidental discovery of them. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Well, let's just say it provided an excellent opportunity for observation. Maya felt sick. You used us as test subjects. People died in these ruins, Commander. And their sacrifices helped us understand a technology that could revolutionize human capabilities, Chen replied. Imagine it, Captain, the ability to merge organic and crystalline life forms to enhance human consciousness with crystalline processing power. The military applications alone. It's not technology, Maya cut him off, struggling to her feet. It's alive, ancient, and it doesn't want to enhance us, it wants to consume us. Chen's expression turned cold. I think you'll find, Captain, that with proper containment and study, anything can be controlled, even ancient consciousness. A subtle movement caught Maya's eye. One of the larger crystal clusters near her feet seemed to shift slightly, its surface rippling in a familiar pattern. Hope surged through her as she recognized Nexus's unique crystalline signature, though greatly fragmented. Speaking of containment, Chen continued, not noticing the movement, we'll need you to undergo full quarantine and debriefing. Your exposure to the transformation process makes you an invaluable source of data. Maya felt the tingle in her right arm intensify. Looking down, she noticed fine crystalline lines still traced her skin beneath her torn suit sleeve, not just on the surface, but somehow integrated into her flesh. A gift from her connection with Nexus, or perhaps a warning. Of course, sir, she said carefully, buying time as she felt a familiar resonance building between her transformed cells and the crystal fragments around them. I'm happy to help with the research, but first I should tell you what we discovered about the ruins' defense mechanisms. Chen leaned forward eagerly. Defense mechanisms. Yes, Maya smiled grimly, like this one. In that moment, she reached out with both her human consciousness and her new crystalline awareness, connecting with the fragments of Nexus scattered around the chamber. The response was immediate. Thousands of crystal shards suddenly pulsed with light, creating a dazzling display that momentarily blinded everyone in the chamber. Maya felt rather than saw Nexus's fragments begin to flow together, drawn by their shared resonance. Chen's shouts of alarm were drowned out by a sound like wind through crystal caves as the ruins themselves seemed to respond to their combined energy. This time, though, they weren't falling into a trap. This time, they were setting one off. Clear the chamber, Chen's voice cracked with authority and fear. Full containment protocols now. But Maya knew it was too late. The ruins had recognized them, not as prey this time, but as catalysts for something entirely unexpected. The ancient consciousness had never encountered anything like their successful resistance, their perfect resonance that had shattered its hold. And now, that resistance was about to have consequences none of Chen's careful plans had anticipated. The chamber's crystalline walls began to pulse with renewed energy, but this time, the pattern was different. This time, it was following their lead. The crystalline walls of the chamber pulsed with increasing intensity as Maya stood her ground, her partially transformed arm glowing in harmony with the fragments of Nexus that swirled around her like a constellation come to life. Commander Chen and his team backed away, their containment devices proving useless against the rising energy that filled the chamber. You don't understand what you're doing, Rodriguez, Chen warned, his composure cracking as the ruins responded to the unique resonance Maya and Nexus had created. That ancient consciousness will consume everything if it's fully awakened. No, Maya replied, feeling Nexus's consciousness reforming beside her, their shared understanding growing stronger. You're the one who never understood. The ruins weren't just a trap, they were a test. The scattered crystal fragments began to coalesce, forming into Nexus's familiar shape, though now with traces of organic patterns that mimicked human cellular structure. Through their restored connection, Maya could sense that Nexus had changed as much as she had. Their crystalline consciousness now carried echoes of human emotion and intuition. The ancient beings who created these ruins, Nexus explained, their voice resonating through the chamber. They weren't trying to consume different life forms. They were searching for ones that could achieve true synthesis, a perfect balance between organic and crystalline existence. The walls around them continued to transform, but not with the hungry, consuming energy they had felt before. Instead, The crystalline structures seemed to be responding to their combined presence, revealing new patterns and pathways that had remained hidden for millennia. All those other pairs, Maya realized, the knowledge flowing through their shared consciousness. They weren't just victims. They were attempts to find the right combination, the right balance, but when the pairs couldn't achieve harmony. The ruins' defensive systems activated, Nexus finished, converting their failed attempts into energy to sustain the search, but we did something different. Chen's scientific curiosity seemed to overcome his fear for a moment. What? What did you do differently? We chose each other, Maya said simply. Not out of necessity or scientific curiosity, but out of trust. When the ruins tried to force our transformation, we resisted not just for ourselves, but for each other. The chamber's energy shifted again, and suddenly holographic images appeared around them, records of countless previous attempts at synthesis between different life forms. Each attempt had failed because one or both parties had tried to dominate the other, to control the transformation for their own benefit. Your military applications, your attempts to control this power, Nexus addressed Chen. They were never possible. The ruins' creators understood that true evolution can't be forced or controlled. It has to be chosen freely and equally. Maya felt a new sensation building in the chamber, not the hungry consciousness they had sensed before, but something vast, an ancient awakening with what felt almost like approval. The crystalline patterns in her arm pulsed in response, and she understood that she and Nexus had initiated something that the ruins' creators had only theorized possible. It's offering us a choice, she said, looking at Nexus. Through their connection, she could sense the magnitude of what lay before them. We can complete the synthesis they sought, become something entirely new. Or remain as we are, Nexus finished, their form shifting slightly closer to her. Though I suspect neither of us can truly return to what we were before. Chen stepped forward, his voice urgent. Captain Rodriguez, think about what you're doing, your duty, your humanity. My humanity isn't defined by my physical form, Commander, Maya cut him off. It's defined by my choices, and I choose to trust in the connection nexus and I have formed. The ruins hummed with building energy as Maya turned to fully face Nexus. We already proved we can maintain our individual consciousness while sharing a perfect resonance. Shall we show them what true synthesis looks like? Nexus's crystalline form pulsed with what Maya now recognized as joy. Together, they agreed. As Maya reached out to touch Nexus's crystalline surface, the chamber erupted with light. But this time, there was no sense of forceful transformation or hungry consumption. Instead, they felt their consciousnesses merge naturally, their bodies transforming not into a single entity, but into complementary forms that maintained perfect balance between organic and crystalline existence. The ruins themselves seemed to celebrate their achievement, ancient systems activating to record and preserve the success of their creators' grand experiment. As their transformation completed, Maya and Nexus stood as living proof that evolution's greatest leaps forward come not from domination or control, but from trust, choice, and perfect harmony between different forms of life. Chen and his team could only watch in awe as the newly transformed pair turned to face them. Maya's voice, now carrying crystalline harmonics, echoed through the chamber. I suggest you revise your research parameters, Commander. The future of human evolution won't be found in military applications or forced transformations. It will be found in learning to connect with those who are different from us, in choosing to grow together rather than trying to control each other. As if in response to her words, the ruins began to shift one final time, their structures rearranging to create something new, not a trap or a test chamber, but a beacon. A signal to other life forms across the galaxy that the ancient experiment had finally succeeded, that true synthesis between different forms of life was possible. Maya and Nexus, their forms now a perfect blend of organic and crystalline existence, stepped forward to begin their new role as guides for others who might choose to follow their path. They had transformed not just themselves, but the very nature of what was possible when different forms of life chose to trust, connect, and evolve together.